All right, we're good to go. We're good.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good to be back with Quinn and Gerald for our third clinic. Tonight, we're going to be talking about traveling violations and backcourt. Before we get started with traveling violations and the clips pertaining to traveling violations, I just want to remind everybody, and this is not the last time you're going to hear this, what we're doing with these clinics is kind of like summarizing, refreshing, trying to stick with plays and situations and rules that are common, really common to our game that we're going to see a lot of. But there's absolutely no substitute for reading the rules book and the mechanics book and the case book. No substitute whatsoever. And you know, I think that I'm at the point in my career where, and Quinn and Gerald are too, where it's highly unlikely that we're going to be looking in the rule book and finding a rule that we've never known before, we've never seen before in our lives. But I know that I can speak for Quinn and Gerald when I say this, that they still read the rule book. They still go back and review the rule book, because while I might not get caught by surprise anymore by a rule, I do get refreshed. It does help to remember, oh yeah, that's that rule, blah, blah, blah. So there's just no substitute. And if the more knowledge you have of the rules, the more confident you're going to be as a play caller, and the more of the confidence you're going to show on the court, and the more coaches and players are going to recognize that and have confidence in you. So that said, if you have a play that we haven't discussed that came up with in one of your games last year, or you've heard about that you feel like we need to talk about, clarify, or help understand, please send us an email, any one of us, any one of the three of us, and we'll be happy to include it in a clinic. If you feel like we've missed something, we're wrong about something, let us know. Send an email. Prefer an email to a text, but send an email. We'll try to clarify and get it straight for you. We won't try to clarify. We will clarify. We will get it straight. And lastly, before we get started, Quinn reminded me just before we started filming to remind all of us that we have our NCHSAA clinic. And the one local one for us is at West Forsyth High School next Wednesday night, the 5th, or the 5th. Starts at 6:30 promptly, and it'll be followed by a TBOA meeting with Art. If you can't make the NCHSAA state clinic, attendance is mandatory. If you can't make the one at West Forsyth, then you'll need to find one of the other locations. Just go on the website and they're posted there. If you can't do that, call Quinn. Let's get started with traveling. In case y'all don't know, Gerald is a New York Yankee fan.
Right. All right, so the first play we have here, I'm just going to play it through real quick first. So these first few clips are all traveling clips. So we're going to have the ball handler is going to dribble towards the basket and make a pass out. So notice that as we're coming down the court here. So just as we get talking about traveling, the most important piece of any traveling call is identifying the pivot foot, right? So we've got to know when this dribbler picks up their dribble, we need to locate the pivot foot and then determine whether or not that pivot foot was picked up and put back down, right? So in this case, if we sort of step through this frame by frame, let's see. So we're going to have the ball has certainly been picked up here. Okay, so the ball, she's got the ball in both hands. The left foot is the pivot foot. Picks it up, puts it down before the pass is released. That's a travel. Okay, so especially early working scrimmages, and just I certainly can be a better. I'm not a great traveling official, and one of the reasons is because I don't always do a great job of identifying the pivot foot. So a great thing to think about early in the season during scrimmages, we make sure we're identifying that pivot foot, because for all of these plays, we can't talk about any of the rules stuff or any of the more complicated thing that's going to happen, more complicated things that could happen if we don't identify the pivot foot.
Very good. Gerald, how do you like the coverage on this play?
Yes, I'm pretty much going to talk about just the coverage on the play. The lead has a great look at this play. He's wide. He's accepting the drive to the basket. I'm assuming he saw the play. We just didn't put a whistle on it. We were in great position. We just didn't pull the trigger.
Yep.
Very good.
On to the next one. Sorry. All right, so in this play, we're going to come down. We're going to have this player is going to, the ball handler is going to execute a jump stop. Jump stops are one of those plays that, whether executed legally or illegally, they look strange. Sometimes they can look strange, and so it's important we know the rules relative to those jump stops. So let's watch what happens here. Okay. So this is in fact a legal jump stop. So let's back this up a little bit and take it sort of frame by frame here. So let me sort of emphasize a couple things. So the first thing, and maybe I've just sort of come past it a little bit, the player ends their dribble with both feet off the court. So now when the player comes down, the player is going to come down, either foot can be the pivot foot. Okay, so in this case, possession is secured in the air, player lands on both feet, and now either foot can become the pivot foot. So in this case, his left foot becomes the pivot foot, but had he decided he wanted to turn the other way and his right foot been the pivot foot, that would have been perfectly fine. Okay, now let's differentiate that from the other jump stop play, which is we end our dribble with one foot on the floor, jump off of that foot, and land simultaneously with 2 feet. In that case, neither foot can be the pivot. They cannot pivot in that case. Okay, so they either immediately go up and try for a goal, or they can pass the ball. Okay, but they cannot pivot in that situation. But in this case, we have possession ending with the feet off the floor. When they come down on both feet, either foot can be the pivot foot.
Very good. Gerald, how do you like the coverage on this play?
Coverage is excellent. Come on, if you take it back a little bit so we can see the trail. Trail hustles into the front court. It's so important to make sure we close the gap when we're coming up behind the basketball, and he does an excellent job getting into the front court. When we freeze it right here, I think the slot official can take a step to the left or the right. Just don't let players set up in front of you to block your view, and I would like him just to take a step either left or right just to get a good look at the play. Other than that, we're in pretty good position to see this play, and great no call by all 3 officials.
The other reason, if you'll leave it right there, Quinn, it occurs to me, is the other reason why another step by the slot official would have been nice is 23 white is set up to receive a pass here, right? So if we had already moved, we're already in a position to be looking through a play, as opposed to waiting until he receives the pass, and then we figure out that we're kind of in a stacked position, and then we have to move. So a movement earlier here in anticipation that a pass might be coming to 23 white might have been helpful. Of course, a pass didn't come to 23 white, but it could have. Do you agree with that, Gerald?
Yes, we talk about this play all the time. Anytime you see a player walking towards you, you just go the opposite way. Whether he has the ball or he's moving without the basketball, don't let the players set up in front of you. Get ahead of the players and move before they get in front of you.
All right.
Great.
On this play right here, we have the lead. The lead is in excellent position. If we go back and look at the lead, he's wide. He has a great look at the post player when he received the basketball. When the post player definitely picks up his pivot foot and drags it. Excellent traveling call by the lead official. He's in excellent position. He's wide. Ball turns right into the lead. Great call.
Now, the other situation we could find ourselves in, as Gerald sort of pointed out, this play just opens right up to the lead. But if, let's say, on this play, instead of this player rolling right into the lead, he could have rolled this way, right? Rolled the other way, in which case the defender would have likely been in between the lead and the offensive player. So we need here in this situation, well, not this particular situation, but in the alternate situation I'm describing, we need trail to also be engaged on this play, because a trail may be able to help identify a travel, especially again when that you have a spin move and the defensive player ends up between the lead and the offensive player. In this situation, there's no way the trail could have seen the ball, because the ball rolls away from the trail. And the one thing we can't do, if we can't see the ball, there's no way we can know whether or not we have a travel, because we don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's happened to all three of us on this video, and probably most of you listening. There's no worse feeling than you blow your whistle to call a travel and that ball starts bouncing off to the side and you don't know whether the shot got blocked or what, or whether they just lost possession of the ball or what happened. But so in this case, the lead, it opens right to the lead. The lead has a great look at the whole thing. Great call by the lead. If we have a situation though where maybe the ball turns away from the lead, the trail can help out on this, and we want the trail to help out on these low post plays when he has something to offer.
Can you, I don't know if we actually got to see where he drug his foot on this play. I mean, he did, but it seemed like it got kind of chopped up. There you go. There you go. Great. That's a great look at it. And the point that Quinn's making there is that if the trail comes in and makes a traveling call on that play, he doesn't know whether two black might have blocked that shot going up and dislodged the ball before the guy travel, you know, just he can't see the ball, and he certainly can't see the defender's action on the ball. So that's all, that particular play is all on the lead, and he did a great job with it.
Yeah, and we gotta make sure that when we get these travels, we're 100% correct on travels, because we got to remember we're taking away possessions when we are blowing our whistle for travels and other violations. So let's make sure we're really having travels when we blow the whistle.
I heard an observer once make a comment. I think his comment was something to the effect of, "Don't make traveling your best call of the night." And I think there's a lot to be said for that, Gerald.
Well, and to your supervisor will understand that you miss calls from time to time. That every one of us misses travels from time to time. But what the supervisor has a much harder time trying to defend is why you put air in your whistle when there was no violation. So, you know, just in terms of defensibility of your calls, it's hard to defend why you blew your whistle when there wasn't anything there. And most coaches understand that we miss things. It's when we put air in our whistle and there's not anything there that's when coaches really can get elevated, and when it's really hard for a supervisor to defend that.
28-27 in a big game. You don't want, as Gerald said, you don't want to take possession away from the team. Possessions are critical. You don't want to take them away if there's not a good reason to take them away. Backcourt violations, guys. Quinn, as you're setting this up, let me just talk a little bit about the essential elements of a backcourt violation. The first thing is there's got to be team possession somewhere on the court. Doesn't matter where, but there's got to be. Once you've established team possession, you now have the possibility of a backcourt violation. The ball must gain front court status. Now, no, I did not say that a player with the ball has to gain front court status. The ball all by itself has to gain front court status. A player for the team in possession has to be the last person to have touched the ball when the ball gains front court status. And a player for that same team must be the first person to touch the ball once the ball gains backcourt status. Okay, those are the essential elements of a backcourt violation. If you don't have all four of those elements, you can't have a backcourt violation. An example of why I emphasize that it's the ball that must gain front court status. An example of that is this play. A1 is bringing the ball up from the backcourt, either holding or dribbling, it doesn't matter. He throws the ball forward and it glances off of a teammate or an official or the floor or the backboard in the front court. So he's thrown the ball forward and it touches a teammate in the front court, an official in the front court, the floor in the front court, or the backcourt in the front court. In any one of those four cases, if the ball, as soon as that happens, the ball has now gained front court status. If that ball then goes directly back into the backcourt, a player for that team, Team A, cannot be the first to touch the ball. The reason why? We have team possession. Let's assume the ball was thrown and touched the backcourt and wasn't shot, okay? We have team possession. Team possession continues during that whole scenario. The last person to touch the ball when the ball had front court status was A1 or a teammate or an official. And the first person to touch the ball when the ball gets back in the backcourt is a player for Team A. That's a backcourt violation. Did I say that okay, Quinn?
Yep.
All right. Let's take a look at this clip one, which is an amazing, amazing play, in my opinion. We have a backcourt violation called here, and it's in real time. It's a little bit of a bang banger, but in real time, it appeared to me, and we're not even going to talk about whether this call was correct or incorrect. It was made by the official with confidence. Nobody, we know in the context of having watched the whole film, nobody questioned the call, and actually in real time, it appears to me that it was right anyhow. But what the reason I picked this clip is because it gives us an opportunity to illustrate certain fundamental principles about backcourt violation. So if we stop, we're going to back it up and we're going to stop when 25 black picks the ball. He's a dribbler, so stop right now. He's a dribbler right now, okay? We all know that this 3-point rule applies to a dribbler. For a dribbler who's advancing the ball from backcourt to front court, both feet and the ball must be in the front court in order for there to be it must be in the front court before we can have a backcourt, before we can then have a backcourt violation. Okay. Until both feet and the ball get into the front court, for a dribbler, the dribbler's in the backcourt the entire time. Once both feet and the ball get into the front court with a dribbler, we now have front court status. In this case, right here on this frame, he has picked the ball up. He is no longer a dribbler. So that rule about both feet of the ball no longer applies. By rule, it no longer applies. So now he is a ball handler. He's holding, he's possessing the ball. A fundamental rule, I believe I'm correct on this. If somebody can prove me wrong, send me an email. If a player is touching the ball, and he has either foot touching in the back court, under any circumstance in basketball, that player and the ball have backcourt status. Okay, so at this moment, this player 25, if that back foot is touching in the backcourt, well, actually, he still has backcourt because his front foot is straddling the line. But if that front foot was in the front court, he still has backcourt violation, backcourt status, because he's got one foot touching, at least one foot touching in the backcourt. Okay, so in this scenario right here on this frame, we have a 25 is no longer dribbling the ball. He's holding the ball. He's ended his dribble. He's holding the ball, and his status is backcourt. Even if his front foot was in the front court, his status would be backcourt. Okay, so if this is when he releases the ball, can we show one more frame? I think, Quinn. Okay, see when if he has released the ball right here, and we can't tell from this frame whether the ball is still touching his hand or not, but if he has released the ball in this frame, you notice that his back foot appears to be touching in the backcourt. He's got backcourt status, so he cannot possibly have a backcourt violation at this point, at any point, because he never gained front court status. Okay. If, on the other hand, his back foot, and if his back foot, on the other hand, is in the air and he releases the ball, which I think is what you'll see in the next frame. It's hard to tell, but if his back foot had come off the floor and then he releases it, he's now got front court status right now. If he's still touching the ball, even his front foot is in the front court, his back foot, let's assume, is in the air. He's got front court status now, and the ball has front court status. So now we have the possibility. We got team possession. We have the ball with front court status. We have two of the elements that we need to have in order to have a possible backcourt violation. What happens next is going to be critical. What happens next depends, the rule depends, whether we have a backcourt violation depends on what is the status of number two when he first touches this ball. Okay, so if you show the next frame, if it's right there, you'll notice his back foot is in the back court. If 25 was in the front court when he released that ball, then we have a backcourt violation right here, because number two has got backcourt status and is the first to touch the ball. If, on the other hand, that back foot was lifted, I don't know if we can get right there, and that's his first touch, we don't have a backcourt violation. Why do we not have a backcourt violation now? If that's his first touch, if that's number two's first touch, he doesn't have anything touching the backcourt. His status is front court, and he's in the front court. So we cannot possibly have a backcourt violation if that was his first touch. Don't mean to make that confusing. I'm using this as an illustrator, but the fact that I said that, I'm not suggesting that I've said it in a confusing way at all. The rules for backcourt, the reason why I spend time with backcourt plays is because the rules are fairly complex and misunderstood, not just by too many of us, but by a whole lot of coaches and players. In this case, it all depends on where 25 was when he released the ball, what his status was, and where two was when he first touched the ball. If 25 didn't have his back foot touching in the back court when he released that ball, then he had front court status, and we have a backcourt violation if two was in the backcourt when he first touched the ball. If 25 had his back foot down when he first touched the ball, and his back foot was in the backcourt, then we could not have had a backcourt violation. Anything to add rules wise to that, guys, or clarify?
No, I think we're good.
All right, but I know you love the positioning on this play, Gerald.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go over position a little bit on play. Quinn, that's perfect right there where we're at.
Sorry, I thought you were going to tell me to back it up.
Oh, no.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The one time that I don't, right? Well, that's good. That's perfect right there. Guys, we know normally the trail is generally responsible for backcourt violations. But if we just look at the slot right here, this is excellent position by the slot. Because too many times what we do as the slot official in transition, we run to the free throw line extended. Quinn, if you can mark the cursor there, we run through the free throw line extended and we wait there for the ball to come into the front court. There's nothing to referee there. So this slot official does an excellent job of staying with the pack, and he's right there on the play and he makes an excellent call. Great job by the slot official, great position. He didn't waste his time at the free throw line extended. Great job.
You know, Chuck, you mentioned that we've seen this whole game. Nobody says a word about this call, which is close. I mean, no matter how you dice it, right? It's close. Part of the reason I think nobody says a word is because he's standing right there. He's put himself in excellent position, not only to make the call, but to be credible when he makes the call. So nobody says anything.
That's a great point.
Ready for the next one?
Yes, sir.
It's the same one. All right.
Quinn laughs every time we show this clip because he knows this is one of my favorite clips.
So before we get into there's going to be a backcourt violation called on this clip, but before we even get there,
No, there's not. No, there's not. Keep going.
am I on the wrong play?
No, you're on the right.
No, you're on the right one.
Oh,
Keep
okay.
going.
So we have no count by the trail at all. No count. Okay. Now, if we go back, so you'll look, the ball is already in the front court at 5:40, but if we go back, we're inbounding this ball at 5:50. So we're awfully close to a 10-second violation one way or the other. Okay. Now let's talk about the rules as they relate to the status of the ball. So certainly right now the ball is being dribbled in the backcourt. The ball clearly has backcourt status. The 10-second count ends when the ball has front court status. Okay. So in this play, let's see what happens. So we're 7 seconds in, we're still dribbling the ball in the backcourt. And now we're going to have a pass, and this player is going to jump. Now, right here, right, we've discussed this player is in the backcourt because 1 foot's in the backcourt, is now airborne. And since that player is airborne, their status is wherever they last were, which was in the backcourt. The ball still does not have front court status here. The ball still has backcourt status, even though he's holding the ball over the front court. The ball still has backcourt status because he jumped from the backcourt, and we're at 5:41, so we're 9 seconds in. Now it looks like here we've landed, and we're still at 5:41. But this is like got to be somewhere between 9.5 and 9.9 seconds. Back to having credibility. We have no credibility here that we know what's going on with this because we don't have a count. We don't have a count. And so when the coach says, hey, that wasn't that awfully close, I mean, what are we going to say, right? Yes, no. I mean, I didn't have a count, so I don't know. We have to have a count here. So that's sort of the first point on this play. So, sorry, I realized what I said earlier and why you were saying I'm thinking about the wrong play. Anyway, then I'm thinking about the next play already. So we have to just be aware. I think if I'm giving the trail the benefit of the doubt here, and we're all guilty of it sometimes, we think the ball is just quickly going to go into the front court. And so we sort of don't bother having a count. And then something exactly like this play happens. Well, this guy decides to take a minute, and now you haven't started your count, and now you have a really close 10-second backcourt count. So don't do that. Don't not have a count. The other point to mention here is that at any point, so let's say, we're getting down here, and maybe the coach has decided that since the trail, the trail doesn't have a count, I don't know what he might do. And we're 8 seconds in here. I'm going to call a timeout. Okay. We have a player in possession of the ball. So the coach for the blue team could call a timeout right here. And if he calls a timeout, we're going to grant him his timeout. He take his full or 30. We're going to come back and we're going to put the ball back in play, in this case in the backcourt, and they're going to get a brand new 10-second count, right? So now they can throw it back in the backcourt and spend as much time as they want. Okay. So in this case, if they call a timeout, we get a whole new 10-second count here. Even if right here, we have a player in possession of the ball, the coach could go, oh crap, it's going to be close, I want to call a timeout. And he can call a timeout, and then he's going to get 10 new seconds in the backcourt. Okay. So we don't need to keep track of once the timeout's been called, they're going to get a brand new 10 seconds. All that matters for the purposes of calling the timeout is that the player has possession of the ball. What matters for the 10-second backcourt count is when the ball, and again, the ball gains front court status. In this case, it did it because the player landed in the front court. It could be because the ball lands in the front court. Okay. But the ball has to gain front court status within 10 seconds. Have I? Oh,
good.
Well, I think I forgot about the feet. So let's say that this player, let's say that instead of jumping from the backcourt, this player here had jumped from the front court and then landed simultaneously with both feet, with one in the front court and one in the back court. Okay. The player lands simultaneously, then the player's in the back court. Okay. Because one foot's in the back court. Now, if this player had jumped from the front court and landed first with a foot in the back court, followed by a foot in the front court, that would be a backcourt violation.
No, not the way you just said it. If he lands first with a foot.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
If the pass had come from the front court, sorry. I'm thinking if the pass had come from the front court,
right,
and he landed with a foot in the back court first. Well, actually, in either case, that wouldn't matter. Sorry, I've gotten myself turned around on my examples. Let's go the other way. So the pass comes from the back court. This is easier. Let's say he jumps from the back court. He comes down and his first foot is in the front court. Now he's not a dribbler. So as soon as he came down with one foot in the front court, he is in the front court. And if he then puts the second foot down in the back court, now we have a backcourt violation.
That's correct. That's right.
So the key here, regardless of the play situation, is that person who jumped up to catch is not a dribbler. So unless they come down, if they come down simultaneously, then they're in the backcourt. But if they come down with one foot in the front court first, then they're in the front court, and we have a violation as soon as they put their foot back down in the backcourt. Don't split hairs on this. If you can say it's simultaneous, reasonably say it's simultaneous. You don't want to argue with the coach that his foot came down the front court a millisecond before the other foot in the back court. But if clearly he comes down on one foot in the front court followed by another foot in the back court, then we would have a backcourt violation in that case. Hopefully I didn't bungle that too badly.
You did not. We got it. So Gerald, the coach has got a question on this play. Probably wants to know why this wasn't a 10-second violation, or why does the guy not have a count or something, but he's questioning this.
Right, definitely. The coach has a question for the slot official. If you hold it right there, Gwen. Anytime a coach has a question during a live ball, I mean, you can choose to answer it, or you can choose to not answer it. But in this case, you can answer the coach. Don't turn your head away from the court. You don't have to look at him at that point. Just give him a quick answer and you move on. But definitely, we want to keep refereeing. We don't want to turn our head away from the court and away from the action. Now, if the coach is asking why your partner does not have a count, you cannot answer that question. So don't put yourself in the box and try to answer that question. Just coach, he'll come over here, he'll get over here, you'll have a chance to ask him anything you want to ask him. But you cannot answer that question why your partner did not have a count.
So, perfect. So what happens, Gerald, if he asks you, let's say you're the slot official and he's asking you a question because, and you don't have time, you just can't do it. You got too much going on. You can't answer him at all.
I'm coach,
And
not
say,
right now.
say the next dead ball was like, 3 possessions later and you happen to be standing over there again, and he's not asking you that question anymore.
I'm definitely not going to initiate the conversation. No, if he want to talk to me, he'll get my attention. I'm not going to go stand by his huddle or stand in his coaching box and ask, Coach, what was that you want to ask me? Coach, do you need something? No. Too many times we do that. We go back a minute later and we want to initiate a conversation about a play that happened early in the game. Big mistake. Leave that alone. He'll get your attention if he needs you.
Very good. Quinn, anything else on that play?
Nope.
All right.
All right. Chuck, I think, are you taking this one? Yeah.
I think this is mine. I like this because it's really gives us a great illustration of some fundamental rules regarding backcourt. So remember, the dribbler, he's dribbling the ball. In order for him, if he continues his dribble, in order for him to gain front court status, both his feet and the ball must be in the front court in order for him to gain front court status as a dribbler. Okay. And by the way, I've had these conversations over the years with fellow officials about, well, there are times when it's obvious, we don't need to have a backcourt count. It's obvious. It's not going to be a 10-second violation. Don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. Well, it didn't take long to watching this film to recognize that White likes to trap, double team, they jump trap. I mean, they do all this sort of stuff. So you don't know that the two players for White aren't going to attack this guy in the backcourt. And if they do, and he picks up his dribble and you don't have a count like we didn't in the other clip, now you got a problem because you've assumed that you didn't need to have a count, but you do. You need to have a count. So here we go. He's dribbling, dribbling, dribbling right into a trap. Here, there. Now he's picked the ball up. He's no longer a dribbler. This 3-point stuff no longer applies. Now all the fundamental rules about, he's going to pivot. If he pivots from one foot with one foot or the other, that's going to dictate whether we have a backcourt violation or not. If he picks up his front foot, which he does in this case, once he lifts his front foot, his status right now is backcourt because he's got a foot touching the backcourt. If he picks up his front foot while he's holding this ball, his status is still going to be backcourt, and so is the ball. So, and that's what he does in this case. So he picks his foot up and he puts it back down in the backcourt. The status hadn't changed. It was backcourt to start with, and it's still backcourt. So it cannot be a backcourt violation. If you can take him back to where he's straddling the line, just so we can visualize, Quinn, thanks, right there. If now he's holding, as soon as the moment he holds the ball, we're back into knowing got to know what the status is. His status right now is backcourt, but if he picks that back foot up while he's holding the ball, his status is now front court, and the ball status is front court. So he better either release that ball on a pass or a shot before he puts that back foot back down in the back court, or he better put it back down in the front court while he's still holding the ball. If he puts his foot back down in the back court, it's going to be a backcourt violation. Again, if he picks the ball up right now, his status is backcourt. If he picks his back foot up while he's holding the ball, his status is front court. If he puts his foot back down in the back court, his status is backcourt. He will have been in team possession, the last to touch the ball while it was in the front court, and the first to touch the ball when the ball's got backcourt status, hence a backcourt violation. I don't have anything else to say about that play. I've worn myself out.
All right, and then this is our last backcourt violation play. This is so we are going to have,
This is the one where he calls a backcourt violation, Quinn. It's come to you.
Yes,
come
to me finally. We have a throw in. Now, automatically on a throw in, there's some slightly different, there's some exceptions to the backcourt rule that apply on during a throw in. Okay, so the first thing we've got to know is, did something happen during the throw in? Okay, so let's remember that the throw in begins when the ball is at the disposal of the thrower. Clearly the ball is at the disposal of the thrower. Our lead has a count. And the throw in ends when the ball touches or is touched by a player. Okay. So that's not the only way, but for the purposes of this play, that's what's going to happen. So we're in the middle of the throw. We're during the throw in right now, but now the ball hits off, I think that's number 2's fingers. Now the throw in has ended because it's been touched in bounds. Okay, so we are no longer during a throw in. Yeah. So now 2 has touched this ball in the front court, touches the ball in the back court. We have a backcourt violation called. So it's easy to think, well, touched in the front court, touch in the back court. Yeah, it's a backcourt violation, but we are missing one crucial element, which is that during a throw-in, there is no team control and no one has yet established control. So there's no team control in this case. So if we run this back, even though 2 was certainly the last to touch the ball in the front court, thereby giving the ball front court status, and the first to touch it in the back court, this is not a backcourt violation because there is no team control yet. Okay. Now, Chuck will talk about some rules in a minute that again, there's some different things during a throw in, but in this case, there's no, there cannot be a backcourt violation. We do not have team control. I think that's all I want to say.
That's correct. That's good. And Gerald, before we get, you lead us into this discussion about the conversation that ensues. Just a couple of things. Number one, there is no team possession during a throw-in for backcourt purposes. You are considered to be in team possession in terms of whether you're going to, if a foul occurs, you would not shoot the bonus if you're in the bonus if the defense commits the foul, because you are considered to be in team possession for that rule, but not for the backcourt rule. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to keep in mind, let's say that this throw-in had been touched by, been caught by 2 white while he's in the air. Let's say he caught it now, and let's say he was close to the division line, because obviously we don't have an illustration of this. Let's say he was real close to the division line. He catches that ball while he's got both feet in the air. He catches it. Okay. We now have the throw in has ended, as Quinn mentioned earlier, and we have team possession because he's caught the ball. And he's got front court status for the same reason that Quinn just mentioned, because when you jump in the air, both feet off the floor, your status is where you came from in terms of front court, back court, on the court, or off the court. So he catches the ball in the air, while having jumped from the front court. We have team possession, throwing in it, team possession, front court status. Let's say he lands with one or both feet in the back court, still holding the ball. Because it's a throw-in, the exception to the rule tells us we do not have a backcourt violation in that situation, period. If he lands simultaneous with both feet, either straddling the line or both feet in the backcourt, it would not be a backcourt violation. Quinn gave you an illustration earlier, or not an illustration, but a discussion. Had that pass come while, after the ball was already in play, let's say it wasn't a throw-in. Let's say the player who made that pass was in the front court, had the ball, we're running a play, it's not a throw-in play, and he makes that pass to two catches the ball while he's airborne, and he lands with one or both feet in the backcourt, that then would be a backcourt violation, because that's the rule. The throw-in situation that I just described is an exception to the backcourt rule. Now, to complicate the matter a little bit further, let's say that on that throw-in, the player for black tips the ball. As soon as he tips the ball, as in the front court, as Quinn mentioned earlier, the throw-in has ended. So whatever exceptions we have to a backcourt rule that apply to a throw-in, those exceptions don't apply because the throw-in's ended. Now, if two white goes up and catches the ball in the air, having left from the front court, now we have team possession. We have two in the front, has front court status. If he lands with either foot in the backcourt, we have a backcourt violation, because the throw-in exception no longer applies because the throw-in ended when two black touched the ball. And that would be the case if any other player had touched the ball for either team during the throw-in, okay? As soon as another player touches the ball, the throw-in exception, the throw-in ends and the throw-in exception ends. Okay? Now, Gerald.
Yes.
We have a coach who I think we're going to agree has a legitimate, well, we know we agree has a legitimate question about this call. Let's see how this gets handled. By the way, the player for black thinks that a foul was called on him when that whistle blew, by the way. He thinks he got called for a foul for a push in the back.
Push.
Yeah. But that's beside the point. So, Joe, they decided to stick with this call. What is the deal with this, Joe? Help us out.
Okay, so let's talk about what do we do after all this takes place. Okay, we have the backcourt violation call, and we all know that two white never possessed the basketball, so we should not have had a backcourt violation. So what we want to do, you can hold it right. Let's go back to where they're getting together point right there. So as the slot official had a great look at this play, you want to go to your trail and you want to ask them, why is this a backcourt violation? He's either going to tell you one or two things. He's either going to tell you it was touched in the front court, so that makes it a backcourt violation when he went and touched it in the backcourt, which is not true. Or he's going to tell you, I think he possessed the basketball in the front court, which he did not. And if he tells you that he possessed the basketball, in his opinion, he possessed the basketball in the front court and then went and got it, now the rule part goes out the window. This is a judgment. Now it's his judgment. So as a slot official, you'll tell him, this is what I saw. He never possessed the ball in the front court. I'm 100% sure of that. You give that information to the trail official. He's either going to take your information and go with it, or he's going to stick with his call. If he decides to stick with his call, everything's on him from there going forward. If we get it wrong, in which we did get it wrong, it's all on him. Now, right here, we just got the rule wrong. So this is going to be a crew thing. We just misapplied a rule and we got it wrong. Now, when a coach asks us about this play, we can't go over there We can't go over there and lie to them. We're simply going to have to tell them, Coach, we had a conversation, we talked about it, and we decided to stick with the call. And you guys have to live with it. We got the call wrong. Now, if the trail official says he possessed the basketball, and you go over to him and tell him he did not possess the basketball, and he decides to stay with that call, like I said, it's going to be on him, and there's nothing we can do about it because it's no longer a rule. Now let's say that we decide to change this call, and we change it to it being not being a backcourt, which it wasn't. Now we have to explain it to the other coach who's going to lose possession. This one should be easy. We go over to him, we tell him, Coach, we had a discussion. By rule, player did not possess the basketball in the front court, and when he retrieved the ball in the backcourt, it was a legal touch. Let's just remember, guys, when we are taking information to our partners, is very key to what we ask, and it's very key to what we do going forward after that. And on this play, we just mishandled the rule on this play right here.
Yeah, to clarify, just to be clear on something, Gerald, that you said, which was excellent. If he says, in my judgment, he possessed the ball, the slot official can clearly still come over and say, well, I feel like I had a great look and a better look than you did. I did not have him possess the ball. If the trail official says, well, appreciate you, bringing me that, but it's my judgment. And in my judgment, he possessed the ball. That conversation's over with, right? That's what you're saying.
Over. Okay. It's over, right? It's no longer a rule situation.
Right. But if he says, no, but it tipped off, I'm pretty sure the rule, it glanced off his hand, and I'm pretty sure the rule is he can't go back there and pick up the ball. I'm pretty sure the rule is a backcourt violation. Now we have a different situation, right? Now
we have a rule situation where we can always get the rule right.
Right.
And we'll come together as a crew, and we'll talk about it. We'll say the rule states he has to possess the basketball in the front court. The touch doesn't matter. He has to possess the basketball. And if he still wants to go with that call, for me, we're gonna ask each official, what do you have? It's 2-1. We're gonna go with that. And even going further, taking it further, the referee can actually say, look, he never possessed the ball. By rule, it's not a backcourt. If this comes back, it's on me. But he did not possess the basketball, and we do not have a backcourt. And we go with that, and we give it back to the same team.
I got you.
Can I add one more thing on that, Chuck? Just
you're the producer of the show. You can do whatever you want to do.
I can edit it in afterwards if I want to. We talk about if we're going to come with judgment information, we got to be 100% about that, right? So as Chuck sort of mentioned, we can't come over and sort of say, well, I thought maybe he didn't possess, either that he didn't possess it or he didn't, and you give that information and it's definite information. Rules, I think, is a little bit different in the sense that if you think we might be misapplying a rule, let's talk about it, right? If you think, wait, hold on a second, we're about to put the ball in play and I'm not sure that we're doing this the way we're supposed to be doing it by rule, stop, right? Hit your whistle, get together with your partners, and let's clear that up right there. Because worst thing that happens is we get together and go, oh no, we were doing it right. Okay. And I don't care if you're a first-year official with Chuck Eakes and Gerald Moyd. If you think Chuck Eakes and Gerald Moyd are about to misapply a rule, stop and check, right, that we're doing it right. Now, if you go, well, I don't know, I think Chuck might have missed that out of bounds call. If you stop every play you think Chuck might have missed, you'll be there all day. No, but if it's a judgment call, we're not going to stop play just because, well, maybe. But for a rule, I think we stop it for a hold on, I'm not 100% sure we're doing that right now.
And to do that, Quinn, you better know the rule yourself.
Right.
If you're coming in there, talking about a rule, you better know the rule. And in this case, I don't think that we were sure as a crew what the rule was on this play.
I agree.
Let's end it up with, that's great, guys. That was great. Let's end it up with Quinn. Talk a little bit about this play that everybody seems to be confused about. A1's dribbling the ball in the front court. So we've got team possession. We've got front court status. B1 knocks the ball away from him and the ball's loose and it's headed to the backcourt.
So a couple of things to remember here. And let's just start by the men's college rule is different than the NFHS, the high school rule. So what you see on TV, that's a different rule. Okay. So it really all comes back to those principles, but also knowing things about team control. So let's start with the fact that if A is dribbling or holding the ball in their front court, they have team control in the front court. B, simply knocking the ball away does not cause team A to lose team control. They're still in control. Okay. So if B1 knocks the ball away from A1 and it goes right into the backcourt and A1 picks it up, we have no problem. Why? Because B1 was the last one to touch the ball in the front court. So it was perfectly legal for A to pick it up in the backcourt. Now, let's say, and the play that sort of gets us, right, is B1 knocks it away and it's loose in the front court and it hits off. It could hit off A1's leg. It could hit off another team A player, and then goes directly into the backcourt where it's picked up by a member of team A. Now we have a backcourt violation. Why? Because A was in team control the whole time. A member of team A was the last to touch it in the front court and the first to touch it in the backcourt. We have a backcourt violation. The only sort of weird scenarios you can get in there is if we have something like a shot, right? And again, it all comes back to fundamentals. If we have, let's say A1 shoots the ball, it actually doesn't matter where they are on the court in this case. They shoot the ball hits off the backboard. Okay, the backboard's in the front court, so the ball has front court status and comes into the backcourt and A picks it up. We don't have a violation. Why? Because on a shot, there is no team control. So we can't have a backcourt violation without team control. So again, and to Gerald's point of when you have these weird situations, get to the fundamentals of what a backcourt violation is. Did you have team control, right? Did you have A possessing that ball? I had A shot the ball there, so we don't have team control. We can't have a backcourt violation. Getting back to those fundamentals are the things that'll help you get backcourt plays right.
Very good. Gerald, you got anything you want to add in conclusion?
No, I think we covered a whole lot.
We look forward to seeing everybody Wednesday night then at West Forsyth High School. Be there before 6:30. Don't let Cecil see you come in late or Art. And thanks for listening. And that's it.
All right.